Have you noticed your hair becoming thinner, your ponytail smaller, more strands in the shower drain, even though you feel like you're eating healthy? And maybe what's most frustrating is this. You've tried the shampoos, the biotin gummies, the collagen powders, the expensive serums, but nothing seems to truly change what's happening. Here's what's really going on inside your body. For many women over 50, hair loss is not just a beauty issue. It's often a metabolic signal, a signal that the body is no longer getting the raw materials it needs to prioritize repair, regeneration, and healthy aging. Because after menopause, the physiology of the body changes dramatically. Estrogen declines, muscle protein synthesis slows down, insulin sensitivity becomes less efficient, cortisol becomes more disruptive, and the body becomes much more selective about where it sends nutrients. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of your body like a house during an energy shortage. When resources are limited, the body protects the essential rooms first: the brain, heart, liver, immune system. Hair? Hair is considered non-essential tissue. So when protein intake is too low or poorly timed, your body quietly redirects nutrients away from your scalp follicles. And the result can show up as thinning hair, brittle nails, loss of skin elasticity, slower healing, muscle loss, fatigue, cravings, and accelerated aging. What surprises many women is that this can happen even if they technically eat enough calories. Because the issue is often not calories. It's protein quality, protein timing, and the hormonal environment surrounding that protein intake. What the research now shows is that women over 50 may actually require significantly more protein than older guidelines suggested, especially in the morning, to support lean muscle, metabolic health, and tissue repair. Recent studies in postmenopausal women found that higher protein intake was associated with better body composition, lower visceral fat, and improved lean tissue preservation. And this is where the morning protein habit becomes incredibly powerful. Because the first meal of the day acts like a metabolic instruction signal to your body. It tells your hormones, build, repair, stabilize blood sugar, preserve muscle, support hair follicles. Or if breakfast is mostly sugar and refined carbs, it tells the body the opposite. Today, I'm going to walk you through the exact morning protein strategy many women over 50 are using to rebuild stronger hair, stabilize energy, reduce cravings, and improve body composition naturally. We'll cover why menopause changes protein needs, why breakfast is the most important protein window, the specific amino acids hair follicles depend on, how insulin and cortisol affect hair growth, the best protein foods for women over 50, and a simple morning protocol you can start tomorrow. And importantly, this is not about perfection. It's about giving your body the biological signals it needs to repair itself again. 6. Science-backed insights will cover why women over 50 become more protein deficient, even while eating normally, how low morning protein increases hair shedding through cortisol and blood sugar instability, why hair follicles are highly sensitive to amino acid availability, the connection between muscle loss, insulin resistance, and accelerated hair aging, why breakfast protein matters more than nighttime protein for metabolic signaling, the exact morning protein routine that supports stronger hair, energy, and healthy aging naturally. One of the biggest misunderstandings in women's health after 50 is the belief that hair loss is mostly a cosmetic issue. But biologically, hair thinning is often a nutrient allocation issue. In other words, your body may simply not feel safe enough or nourished enough to invest energy into growing thick, healthy hair. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Hair follicles are among the fastest growing tissues in the human body. They require enormous amounts of energy, amino acids, minerals, oxygen, and hormonal balance to stay in the active growth phase known as anagen. But after menopause, several things begin happening at the same time. Estrogen declines. Muscle mass naturally decreases. Insulin resistance becomes more common. Protein absorption efficiency weakens, and the body becomes more catabolic, meaning it breaks down tissue faster than it rebuilds it. This is why many women notice that hair thinning often appears alongside loss of muscle tone, increased belly fat, weaker nails, dry skin, poor sleep, and lower energy. These are not isolated symptoms. They are connected through metabolism. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your body operates like a financial budget. Every single day, your body receives deposits in the form of nutrients, protein, vitamins, minerals, healthy fats. Then your body decides where to spend those resources. After 50, because hormones become less protective, the body becomes much more conservative with its nutrient spending. And when protein intake is too low, hair becomes one of the first places where the budget gets cut. This is why many women are shocked when they discover they're severely under-eating protein without realizing it. A typical breakfast might look like toast, oatmeal, cereal, fruit smoothie, coffee, but metabolically that meal may contain only 5 to 10 grams of usable protein. That is nowhere near enough to stimulate repair pathways in aging muscle and hair tissue. What the research shows is that older adults experience something called anabolic resistance. This means the body requires a stronger protein signal to activate tissue rebuilding compared to younger years. Studies suggest many adults over 50 benefit from around 25-30 grams of high-quality protein per meal to optimally stimulate muscle protein synthesis. And this matters because hair follicles are metabolically expensive tissues. If your breakfast lacks adequate amino acids, your body enters the day in a mild stress state. Blood sugar rises quickly, insulin spikes, then glucose crashes, cortisol rises to compensate. And cortisol is incredibly disruptive to hair growth. Why? Because chronic cortisol shifts the body into survival mode. In survival mode, the body prioritizes immediate energy needs over long-term beauty and regeneration. Hair follicles may prematurely shift into the resting phase called telogen, leading to increased shedding weeks later. This is one reason many women experience heavy hair shedding during periods of stress, dieting, poor sleep, or under-eating. Now here's the fascinating part. The solution is often surprisingly simple. Not expensive creams, not exotic supplements, not complicated biohacking, but strategically giving the body enough protein early enough in the day to create a metabolic environment of repair instead of breakdown. And timing matters tremendously. Morning protein helps blunt cortisol naturally. It stabilizes blood sugar, improves satiety hormones, supports dopamine production for focus and mood, and provides the amino acid pool needed for keratin production, the primary structural protein that makes up your hair. This is why women who begin prioritizing protein at breakfast often report multiple changes happening together. Less hair shedding, better energy, fewer cravings, improved mood, better sleep, stronger muscles, and reduced belly fat. Because they're not just eating more protein, they're changing the biological instructions their body receives every morning. And one important point here, the goal is not a high-protein fad diet. The goal is metabolic signaling. You are teaching the body, we are nourished, we are safe, we can rebuild again, and that changes everything. If this is helpful so far, consider subscribing and joining me each day as we break down the science of healthy aging, metabolism, and natural healing in a way that's practical and actionable for real life. Now, once you understand that hair follicles are highly sensitive to nutrient availability, the next question becomes, why is morning protein so much more powerful than simply eating protein later in the day? Because this is where circadian biology enters the picture. Your metabolism is not static across 24 hours. Your hormones operate on an internal clock. And the first meal you eat acts like a metabolic steering wheel that influences insulin, cortisol, appetite hormones, muscle preservation, and tissue repair for the rest of the day. Here's what's really going on inside your body. When you wake up in the morning, cortisol is naturally elevated. Now, cortisol itself is not bad. In fact, healthy morning cortisol helps you wake up, increases alertness, mobilizes energy, and supports brain function. But in many women over 50, cortisol becomes exaggerated because of poor sleep, chronic stress, blood sugar instability, menopause-related hormonal shifts, under-eating protein, excessive caffeine on an empty stomach. And when cortisol rises without adequate nutritional support, the body begins breaking down tissue to maintain blood sugar stability, including muscle tissue. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine cortisol as your body's emergency backup generator. If your body doesn't receive enough fuel in the morning, especially amino acids, cortisol turns on the generator by pulling stored materials from the body itself. That can mean breaking down muscle protein to create glucose through a process called gluconeogenesis. And over time, this creates a catabolic state. Less muscle, slower metabolism, higher insulin resistance, and poorer hair growth support. This is why many women notice they feel shaky by late morning, intensely hungry in the afternoon, dependent on sugar or caffeine, mentally foggy, tired after meals. Their metabolism is spending the day compensating instead of repairing. What the research shows is that a protein-rich breakfast significantly improves appetite regulation, insulin sensitivity, and satiety compared to high-carbohydrate breakfasts. Higher protein intake earlier in the day has also been associated with improved lean mass preservation in older adults. And this becomes critically important after menopause, because estrogen normally helps support insulin sensitivity and metabolic flexibility. When estrogen declines, the body becomes more vulnerable to blood sugar swings and fat storage, especially around the abdomen. And unfortunately, many healthy breakfasts actually worsen this situation. For example, orange juice, cereal, granola, flavored yogurt, muffins, toast with jam, smoothie bowls. These foods digest rapidly into glucose. Blood sugar spikes quickly. Insulin rises sharply. Then blood sugar crashes. And that crash often triggers cravings, fatigue, anxiety, more cortisol, and inflammation. Hair follicles do not thrive in inflammatory environments. In fact, chronically elevated insulin and inflammation can impair circulation to the scalp microvasculature, reducing nutrient delivery to follicles over time. Now compare that with a breakfast built around 30 grams of quality protein. Something like eggs with Greek yogurt, cottage cheese with chia seeds, smoked salmon with avocado, tofu scramble with hemp seeds, protein smoothie with collagen and berries. Now the metabolic message changes completely. Blood sugar rises gradually, cortisol stabilizes, satiety hormones improve. The brain receives steady amino acid delivery, and the body shifts toward rebuilding instead of survival. One amino acid that deserves special attention here is leucine. Leucine acts almost like a metabolic on switch for tissue repair pathways, especially muscle protein synthesis through a signaling pathway called mTOR. And while viewers often hear about muscle health, very few realize this same amino acid sufficiency also supports structures like hair, nails, and skin. This is why protein quality matters just as much as protein quantity. Many women technically consume enough protein by grams, but not enough essential amino acids. And this is especially common in women who eat very light breakfasts or delay eating until afternoon while relying heavily on caffeine. Now, fasting can absolutely be beneficial in the right context. But for some women over 50, especially those experiencing hair thinning, fatigue, muscle loss, or high stress, aggressive fasting may worsen the problem if protein intake is insufficient overall. The body interprets chronic undernourishment as stress, and stress bodies do not prioritize luxurious hair growth. They prioritize survival. So one of the simplest and most powerful shifts you can make is this. Within 60-90 minutes of waking, give your body a high-quality protein signal. Not perfection, not obsession, just consistency. Because consistency is what retrains metabolism. And over weeks, that shift can begin changing the entire biological environment that hair follicles depend on. Now let's talk about something almost nobody explains properly when it comes to hair health after 50. Hair is made primarily from protein, specifically a structural protein called keratin. And keratin production depends heavily on amino acid availability. This means your hair follicles are constantly asking one question. Do we have enough raw materials to keep building? And if the answer is no, even subtly no, hair growth slows down. Shedding increases. Strands become thinner. Growth cycles shorten. And the texture of the hair itself may change. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Every hair follicle operates like a tiny biological factory. To build strong strands, that factory requires amino acids, iron, zinc, B vitamins, omega-3 fats, adequate thyroid signaling, stable blood sugar, and healthy circulation. But protein sits at the center of all of it. Without adequate protein intake, the body simply cannot manufacture keratin efficiently. And one of the biggest problems for women over 50 is something called silent protein deficiency. This doesn't mean starvation. It means the body receives just enough protein to survive, but not enough to fully thrive and regenerate. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine trying to renovate a house with only half the building materials arriving each week. The contractor might prioritize fixing major structural damage first, but cosmetic upgrades? Those get delayed. Your body works the same way. When protein is limited, the body prioritizes organs, enzymes, immune cells, hormones, blood proteins. Hair gets whatever is left over. And over time, follicles become weaker and more vulnerable to stress hormones, inflammation, and aging. What the research shows is that protein energy malnutrition, even at mild levels, can directly contribute to hair thinning and telogen effluvium, a common form of diffuse hair shedding. Amino acid sufficiency is essential for maintaining normal hair growth cycles. Now, one amino acid that deserves special attention is cysteine. Cysteine contains sulfur, which helps form the structural bonds that give hair strength and resilience. This is why sulfur-rich protein foods are incredibly valuable for aging hair. Foods like eggs, salmon, turkey, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, lentils, grass-fed beef, sardines, and another critical nutrient here is glycine. Glycine supports collagen formation, connective tissue integrity, sleep quality, and recovery pathways. This is one reason collagen peptides can be helpful, especially when combined with complete protein sources. But here's the important nuance many people miss. Collagen alone is not a complete protein. It lacks enough leucine and certain essential amino acids to fully stimulate tissue rebuilding. So if someone is adding collagen to coffee while still eating very little total protein, the body may still remain undersupplied. Think of collagen as supportive scaffolding, not the entire construction crew. Now let's talk about one major breakfast mistake that quietly sabotages hair growth: coffee-only mornings. This is incredibly common. A woman wakes up, drinks coffee, maybe skips breakfast, then finally eats hours later. But metabolically, this combination can amplify cortisol for susceptible individuals. And elevated cortisol increases protein breakdown. So instead of building tissue, the body spends the morning borrowing resources from itself. This is especially problematic during menopause because muscle preservation becomes much harder. And here's why muscle matters more than people realize. Muscle acts like a metabolic savings account. Healthy muscle improves insulin sensitivity, stabilizes blood sugar, supports mitochondrial health, reduces inflammation, and healthier metabolism supports healthier hair follicles. This is why women who rebuild lean muscle often notice improvements not only in strength, but also in hair texture, skin quality, energy, sleep, and body composition, because the body is becoming metabolically younger. Now, practically speaking, what does this look like in the morning? A very effective target for many women over 50 is 25-35 grams of protein at breakfast. Not necessarily huge volume, just nutrient density. For example, 3 eggs plus Greek yogurt, protein smoothie with whey or pea protein, cottage cheese with nuts and seeds, tofu with edamame, salmon and avocado. And importantly, combine this with fiber and healthy fats, because this slows glucose absorption and creates longer-lasting satiety. One more key point: hair growth takes time. Follicles operate in cycles. So when women say, "I changed my diet for 1 week and nothing happened," that's not how physiology works. The body needs repeated evidence of safety and nourishment. But within weeks, many women begin noticing reduced shedding, stronger nails, better energy, fewer cravings, improved mood stability. These are early signs the metabolism is shifting toward repair again. And if this conversation is helping simplify the science for you, consider subscribing. Every day here, we break down the biology of healthy aging into practical tools you can actually use in real life. Now let's talk about one of the most overlooked reasons women over 50 struggle with hair thinning even when they're trying to eat better. They are eating enough food, but not enough nutrient density. Because hair follicles are not only sensitive to protein quantity, they are deeply dependent on micronutrients that help convert protein into actual tissue. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Building strong hair requires a coordinated biological process involving amino acids, iron, zinc, selenium, biotin, vitamin D, omega-3 fats, B vitamins, thyroid hormones, and adequate mitochondrial energy. Think of it like building a bridge. Protein provides the steel beams, but the vitamins and minerals are the engineers, electricians, welders, and support crews. Without them, construction slows down. And after 50, nutrient deficiencies become more common for several reasons: lower stomach acid, reduced absorption efficiency, medications, chronic inflammation, digestive changes, reduced muscle mass, years of dieting. This is especially important because low stomach acid can impair protein digestion itself. Many women think, "I eat protein, so I must be absorbing it." Not necessarily. Protein must first be broken down into amino acids before the body can use it effectively, and stomach acid plays a major role in that process. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine trying to build a wall with large bricks that never get cut into usable pieces. That's what poor digestion does to protein. The raw materials arrive, but they're not processed efficiently. This is one reason some women feel bloated or heavy after protein-rich meals, yet still show signs of deficiency: thinning hair, brittle nails, fatigue, low muscle tone, weak recovery. Now, one major nutrient that deserves attention here is iron. Iron helps carry oxygen to tissues throughout the body, including hair follicles. And low iron stores are one of the most common hidden contributors to diffuse hair shedding in women. What's fascinating is that ferritin, the storage form of iron, can sometimes be low normal on labs while still being suboptimal for robust hair growth. Research has consistently linked low iron stores with increased hair shedding, particularly in women. Now, this does not mean everyone should blindly supplement iron. Too much iron can also be harmful, but it does mean persistent hair thinning deserves deeper metabolic investigation, not just cosmetic treatment. Another major player is zinc. Zinc helps support protein synthesis, immune regulation, tissue repair, and healthy follicle cycling, and zinc deficiency can directly impair hair growth. Foods naturally rich in zinc include oysters, beef, pumpkin seeds, lentils, yogurt, chickpeas. Now let's talk about vitamin D. Vitamin D receptors are present in hair follicles themselves. Low vitamin D status has been associated with several forms of hair loss and impaired follicle cycling. And unfortunately, deficiency becomes more common with aging because skin synthesis declines, indoor lifestyles increase, body fat storage alters vitamin D availability. This is why a comprehensive strategy matters. Hair health is rarely about one magic supplement. It's about creating an internal environment where the body feels resourced enough to regenerate. Now, here's something very important many viewers need to hear. Stress alone can deplete nutrients. Chronic cortisol increases demand for magnesium, B vitamins, amino acids, antioxidants. And when stress becomes chronic, digestion itself often weakens. Blood flow shifts away from the gut toward survival pathways. So even healthy eating may not fully compensate if the nervous system remains chronically overloaded. This is why recovery matters. Sleep matters. Walking matters. Strength training matters. Sunlight matters. Stress regulation matters. Because metabolism is an ecosystem. Everything communicates with everything else. Now, practically speaking, here's a very effective morning strategy many women over 50 respond well to. Start the day with 25-35 grams of protein, healthy fats, fiber, hydration, and mineral support. For example, eggs with sautéed spinach and avocado, Greek yogurt with chia, walnuts, and berries, protein smoothie with collagen, whey protein, flaxseed, and cinnamon, tofu scramble with olive oil and vegetables. And importantly, eat slowly, chew thoroughly, support digestion. Because digestion is where nourishment actually begins. One more thing, do not underestimate resistance training. Even 2 or 3 short sessions weekly can dramatically improve insulin sensitivity, muscle preservation, mitochondrial function, and nutrient partitioning. And healthier muscle creates a healthier aging environment overall, including for your hair. If this has been helpful so far, consider subscribing and joining this community focused on science-backed strategies for healthy aging, metabolism, and natural healing, one practical step at a time. Now, there's one final piece of this conversation that ties everything together: consistency. Because the body does not rebuild health from isolated healthy choices. It rebuilds health from repeated biological signals over time. And this is especially true for hair follicles. Hair growth operates in cycles. A follicle may remain in a growth phase for years, then transition into a resting phase, then eventually shed and restart the cycle again. Which means what you do today may not become visible for several weeks or even months. And this is where many people unintentionally sabotage themselves. They try a healthier breakfast for 3 days, then stop. They increase protein for 1 week, then return to old habits. They expect immediate cosmetic change from a process that is fundamentally metabolic. But here's what's really happening beneath the surface. Every high-protein breakfast, every strength training session, every night of better sleep, every stabilized blood sugar response is sending the body a message. We are no longer in survival mode. And when the body begins to believe resources are consistently available, repair pathways gradually reactivate. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine trying to regrow a garden after a drought. You cannot flood the soil once and expect instant transformation. The soil must repeatedly receive water, sunlight, minerals, and care before new growth becomes stable. Your metabolism works the same way. The body watches patterns, not isolated events. This is why women who commit to simple metabolic habits for 6-12 weeks often experience profound shifts. Reduced hair shedding, improved energy, better sleep, stronger muscles, fewer cravings, better mood stability, and healthier body composition because they are no longer fighting physiology. They are supporting it. Now let's walk through a very practical morning protocol that brings all of this together. A simple, metabolically supportive morning routine for women over 50 could look like this. First, hydrate within 15 minutes of waking. Overnight, The body loses water through respiration and sweating. Even mild dehydration can increase cortisol and fatigue. Start with water, mineral water, or water with electrolytes. Second, get natural morning light exposure if possible. Morning sunlight helps regulate circadian rhythms, cortisol timing, melatonin production, and insulin sensitivity. Even 5 to 10 minutes outdoors can help anchor the body's internal clock. Third, eat a protein-rich breakfast within about 60-90 minutes. Aim for 25-35 grams of quality protein. Examples include eggs with cottage cheese, Greek yogurt with seeds and nuts, tofu scramble with avocado, salmon and vegetables, protein smoothie with whey or pea protein. Now, one important detail, do not fear healthy fats. Healthy fats help stabilize glucose and support hormone production. Foods like avocado, olive oil, walnuts, chia seeds, flaxseed, salmon can improve satiety while reducing inflammatory swings in blood sugar. Fourth, prioritize muscle stimulation. This does not require extreme workouts. Even walking, resistance bands, bodyweight squats, light dumbbells can dramatically improve metabolic health. Because muscle is not just cosmetic tissue. Muscle is an endocrine organ. Healthy muscle improves glucose regulation, inflammation control, mitochondrial function, and healthy aging pathways. And all of these influence hair health indirectly. Now let's address something emotionally important here. For many women, hair thinning feels deeply personal. It can affect confidence, identity, femininity, a sense of vitality. But please understand this. Hair changes are often not a sign your body is failing. They are often a sign your body is adapting to stress, nutrient scarcity, hormonal shifts, or metabolic imbalance. And the encouraging news is that the body is remarkably responsive when given the right signals consistently. Not perfectly, consistently. Because healthy aging is not about chasing youth. It's about restoring resilience. And resilience is built biologically through nourishment, movement, recovery, and metabolic stability. That is the real goal. Not simply thicker hair, but a healthier internal environment where the entire body functions better together.